And joining us now, two of the men who wrote pieces in National Review about Donald Trump, two men of the moment, as I like to call them. But first, before we go to Andy McCarthy and Bill Kristol, I want you to hear what Donald Trump said in response to the National Review editorial and the pieces. Watch.
No, the National Review is a dying paper. Its circulation's way down. Not very many people read it anymore. I mean, people don't even think about the National Review. So I guess they want to get a little publicity. But no, that's a dying paper. Really, I mean, it's pretty much. I got to say, Dave, pretty much of a dead paper.
Dying paper, dead paper. All right, Andy McCarthy, former federal prosecutor, author of Faithless Execution, Building the Political Case for Obama's Impeachment, and National Review columnist. And Bill Kristol, founder and editor of the Weekly Standard and ABC News Contributor. All right, so you guys joined with 20 or so other conservatives and wrote pieces against Donald Trump. Bill, why'd you do it?
I did it because Rich Lowry, the editor of the National Review, asked me to, and I thought it was a fine thing that he was putting together that symposium, very much in the tradition of Bill Buckley, who founded National Review and always thought one of his jobs was to try to persuade his fellow conservatives not to go off down foolish paths and follow false preachers, if I can use that metaphor. Trump, I noticed that one of Trump's tweets this morning was that, well, he liked William Buckley, and Buckley wouldn't have done this. Buckley actually comments on Donald Trump. My friend Adam White, also a friend of Andy's, found this in Cigar Aficionado. Bill Buckley wrote pieces in a lot of different magazines, you know. In early 2000, remember, Trump was thinking of running as a Reform Party candidate, and Buckley dismissed Trump as a narcissist and a demagogue, the kind of person who was not qualified to be president. So the people at National Review should be proud that they're following in Bill Buckley's footsteps.
And Andy, same question to you. What made you participate?
The same thing that made me join National Review in the first place. I think this is what we're here for. I really don't worry too much about Trump's commentary this morning. As usual with Trump, 5 minutes ago he was saying National Review was vital. That's really his pattern with respect to most of the things he says and most of the positions he has, which is indicative of somebody who is really not a principled person. The mission of National Review is to conserve these principles, and I think this was an exercise in furtherance of that mission.
All right, Bill, what is the purpose here, do you believe? What was your purpose of participating? In other words, you don't want Trump to be the nominee. If Trump is the nominee, though, you'll support him, I presume. How do you reconcile that after blasting him? And how does National Review, who I would assume would support him over Hillary or Sanders or Biden, how do they reconcile that?
Well, let me talk about the Weekly Standard, because I don't want to speak for Rich or the editors of National Review. Andy's already written an eloquent editorial supporting Ted Cruz. I think at this stage, people, probably many support Ted, some support Marco Rubio, others might think one of the governors still has a shot, but. Look, at this point, you've got to fight the fight we're fighting here in the primary. People will have to make up their own minds if Trump is the Republican nominee, what the alternatives are. Are there third parties or fourth parties? But I think it's very important to call it as it is. We have a cover story about Matt Labash, which rehearses some of the things people have just willfully forgotten. This is, I think, Andy's theme, willfully forgetting things. Willfully forgotten what Trump has done over the last 25, 30 years, not just about conservatism. What kind of businessman is he? What kind of human being, honestly, is he? What kind of demonstration has there ever been of attachment to American principles, let alone conservative principles? So I think we've got to call it as it is, and then we'll jump off the next bridge in 6 months.
Andy, again, if you supporting Cruz, and that's fine. Are you prepared though to back Trump? And if you do, how do you reconcile? And whatever happened to not eating our own? Why isn't the focus turned on Hillary? Let's get her indicted. Let's make sure everyone knows she's under FBI investigation. Let's make sure everybody knows that Sanders is closer to a communist than a Democrat. Let's make sure that everybody knows if Biden gets in, that he is just Obama. I mean, why concentrate on the front runner of the Republican Party at this point?
Well, implicit in that question, Steve, is that he's one of our own. And I think, as Bill's pointing out, he emphatically is not. And that's the whole point. What I'll do when we get down to an election, I'll see what happens when I see who's in the election. But the fact is, you'll be shocked to learn that as a conservative, I don't always have a candidate that I'm crazy about in every election. You fight the fight when it's before you to fight it. We do the best we can to win, and to win the right way and on the right basis. If it turns out that we don't, so you got to make an adult decision on the basis of what the alternatives are, and when that time comes, I'll weigh it. But I think sufficient unto the day and all that.
All right. So that brings up a good point. We only got a minute and a half left. Bill, were these columns written? I mean, were you outspoken that McCain wasn't conservative enough, that Romney wasn't conservative enough, and were you supporting a more conservative candidate at this point back then, 4 years ago, 8 years ago?
Yes, actually, and the Romney people never forgave me for my not getting on board that bandwagon earlier. So, but again, we don't look. We're here. We're not running PACs, super PACs. We're not elected officials. They have to take more of these things into account. Someone's got to sort of tell the truth at this point, and assume the voters will sort it out. And
Andy, same question to you. Were you as objectionable to at this point in when McCain was the front runner in the primaries, and Romney, were you as outspoken then about them as you are now about Trump?
Yeah, I think, Steve, that I not only I got a lot of heat for dissenting from my magazine's position on McCain in connection with at least one of his races, but I would also point out, going back to your last question, at the end of the day, I voted for McCain because he was the best candidate in the race. All right.
And so, Andy, you're not willing to say right now, or will you, that you would support Trump if he's the nominee?
I'm not going to. I want to see what happens in Iowa. It's a long time.
Okay, fair enough. And Bill, you too, you want to see if there's a third or fourth party candidate to quote you,
I want to
right?
see what Trump says. How much time does Trump spend talking about Supreme Court appointments? What does he say about repealing Obamacare? What does he say about limiting government?
Gentlemen,
if Trump has Andy as one of his top advisors, I'll rethink and become more pro-Trump.
Bill Kristol, Andy McCarthy, an honor to have both of you on. Thank you very much. We're coming back, folks. Don't go away.